The Awakener looks cool and flashy, but don't get fooled, underneath lies shallow gameplay in an uninteresting world. At first glance, the game looks really fun, and it actually is, for a while at least. The more I play, however, I realize that the gameplay has no depth, and nothing is challenging in the game except the true final boss at the end. The game is developed by Tanner Games. They announced another game at TGS back in 2021, The Awakener Risen. The Awaken Risen is an open world game that looks similar to Dragon's Dogma in gameplay and style. To me it seems like they have reused a lot of assets from that game and used them in the Awakener Forgotten Oath. I don't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing, but that game looks a lot bigger and might be the reason why this game feels a bit unfinished and rushed. This might just be a concoction while they work on the bigger game, because it feels like they just have taken assets from that game and thrown Forgotten Oath together. In the Awakener Forgotten Oath, you play as one of the Awakeners, a chosen hero by the gods in a fight against the Legions of Chaos. The Legions of Chaos invaded your homeworld and started to bring destruction down on it. In order to save the world, the Awakeners used their divine powers to bring themselves and the Legions of Chaos into a realm they call the Nothingness. Here the Awakeners and the Legions of Chaos continue the fight until someone is victorious. The story of the game is delivered in 4 sentences. At the start of the game. I really don't like when developers put no effort into the story of their game. You get a bit more story as you play, but it's not much and it's not interesting. You might not play these games for the story, but I think as a developer you should put some effort into the introduction of the game at least, to get people interested. The game is played in third person. You have your basic attack, guard, dodge, and 4 skills at the most. Then you have your awaken skill and an artifact you can use. Your regular attack does a reasonable amount of damage and stagger lesser enemies. If you do a perfect guard or dodge, you can do a counter attack dealing heavy damage. The skills you have equipped are split into 2 sets. The first can be used on the ground and the second in the air. One of the ground skills can be used to launch enemies into the air, where you can follow up with the second 2 skills. The skills in the game have no cooldown and can be spammed indefinitely. This is a bit of a weird design decision to me, because all you do is spam the skills until everything is dead. There isn't much use for the regular attack. The one use I had for the regular attacks is to put stacks of elemental damage on the boss, but that's about it. This is a roguelite game, so you do runs, as I like to call it. You basically play the game over and over again until you become better at it, you unlock new things, and finally you beat it. These games usually have a lot of procedurally generated content, not so much in this one. Forgotten Oath becomes very repetitive and boring very quickly, and a major factor to this, for me at least, is the 4 skills per character you can use per run. As I mentioned, you have an awaken skill as well, which is kind of an ultimate attack, and an artifact, which helps a little with this problem. In the hub you can unlock and switch out the 4 skills, however there are only about 6 more skills per character to unlock, and you need to equip these before you start a run. You can't switch out them during a run, and there's no way to alter or enhance the skills like in Hades. You will get elemental enhancements for your skills and attacks, but these are no evolution of the skills. For me the game is just a repetitive mashing of the same 4 skills. A complete run takes about 40 to 60 minutes, and I cleared my first run on my second attempt. The game is just way too easy. The hub of the game is where you choose your character and prepare for the next run. There are 3 characters to choose from in the release. The fighter, which uses a shield and sword, the vanguard that uses a spear, and the blade dancer, which uses 2 swords. All 3 of them are great, with very distinct playstyles. I would have loved to see a few more classes in the game. As I mentioned, all 3 have a few skills to unlock and switch between in the hub. You also have talents. These are permanent upgrades that apply to all 3 characters. These vary from more damage dealt to more healing per potion, revives if you die, more loot, and many more. There are also 3 more awaken skills to unlock, making it 4 in total. This one also has to be equipped before a run. There's also a training dummy if you want to test out the character and their skills. More games should really have this. I love me a training dummy in my games. The hub is fine. There are a few characters here to talk to as well, for a bit more lore, but yeah, a very standard hub. The game is split into 3 biomes, with a boss at the end of each one. When you beat the game for the first time, you unlock the ability to purchase new weapons and progress the story a bit. To unlock the final trial, you need to collect 5 pieces of a chalice. To do so, you need to beat the game a few more times, with a new, much harder boss at the end of the game. The weapons you can buy have different stats on them. It would have been really cool if they changed all the skills of the character or the playstyle, but sadly, no. As I mentioned, you have a new boss at the end. The most annoying thing about this is that the first 3 biomes and bosses are super easy. I mean, I can do them in my sleep almost. Especially when you have done a few runs and upgraded your character in the hub. The final boss, however, the new boss, is really hard. And I died to it quite a lot of times. To play about 40 to 60 minutes of brainless gameplay just for another try at the boss at the end, it's not really a fun experience. The difficulty scaling is just bad in this game. But the thing is, after I played the game for about 13 hours, I had unlocked everything in the game, and the final boss became super easy as well. But the journey to get there is not really worth it in my opinion. If there were more biomes that the game randomly picked between, or enemy groups, I mean at least double or triple the amount of enemies in the game, that would be a lot more interesting and challenging. The third biome is the only one with a decent amount of enemies on each map. I don't understand why the first two have so few enemies. All of this would alleviate some of the monotony of having to do the same thing over and over again. The maps within each biome change a bit, but that's about it. The game lacks content. As you have seen from the video now, it's really hard to see what's going on sometimes in the game. All this comes from the elemental effects in the game. The game structure is similar to many other roguelites. You go through rooms, kill enemies. After you clear a room, you get new rooms to choose between. You choose the room with the rewards you want. You clear the room and you get the rewards, and the process repeats until you in this game clears 9 rooms, because the 10th will be the boss fight. The rewards from clearing a room vary between currency to spend in the hub, money to spend in the shop, on the run you're on, fighting will. This is an enhancement for your character that lets you choose between 3 battle upgrades when you get enough fighting will. These are usually increasing damage of a certain move, you get more HP back from killing enemies, releasing slash waves when you attack. There are a few more, but nothing crazy. You also get artifacts as a reward. You can switch them out if you want to. In the shop you can also level them up. Artifacts are powerful attacks that have a small cooldown before they can be used again. These can range from a hammer that you slam into the ground to inflict lightning damage, to a cannon that shoots cannonballs that inflict fire damage, to a windshield that inflict wind damage, and a few more. The last room rewards are relics. Relics are for the most part stat boosts and elemental effects for a character. The relics are split into 6 elements. You have your standard fire, ice, wind, thunder, light, and dark. And you also have relics that don't belong to none of these. The relics are also split into 4 rarities depending on how good they are. There are a lot of relics in the game. I think somewhere around 200, maybe more, if the numbers on the relics are anything to go by. With my 13 hours in the game, and if I look in the in-game Wikipedia, I think I have a record of about 150 of them. The relics are probably the best part of the game, as they have the most impact on how you deal damage in the game. These do not alter any of your skills, but what they do is apply an elemental effect. So for example, if you use a normal attack with a vanguard that have the relic Embers of Twilight, it will give the enemy a burn stack that inflicts a small amount of fire damage for 8 seconds. These can be stacked 5 times. If you then have the relic Dream Crushing and use a smash skill, it will consume the burn stack on the enemy and unleash a big explosion that deals a lot of damage. You can at the same time do this for all the elements if you have the correct relics. I usually manage to collect about 30 relics per run if I only went for relics as the reward for rooms, and this meant a lot of elemental effects and a lot of explosions going off at the same time, and why you can't see shit in the game. All of these relics are unfortunately almost entirely irrelevant, as you can clear the first 3 biomes without even really reading or trying to synergize the relics, because the game is just too easy. The boss at the end though, oh boy, he will stomp you. So what you need to do is build for the last boss of the game and nothing else. Or spend about 13 hours and unlock everything. But I still think you need to synergize the skills in order to beat him. I really don't like the structure or the balance of the game. It feels very cheap, and they need to do something about this. And the fact that you can't see anything when you fight in the last boss is a big problem. There are so many effects going off. Trying to dodge or block is a nightmare unless you stop attacking yourself. The big flashy attacks looks cool when you're fighting regular enemies, because they die so easily you don't really have to see what's going on. But on the true final boss, I really do want to see what's going on. And I don't see any in-game option to turn them off either. The combat overall is very responsive, and you can pull off some cool synergizing attacks with a bunch of effects going off. It looks so cool, but it's not optimal because you can't see anything. I think they should have leaned more into upgrading skills and altering the skill movesets, maybe adding more attacks as you play instead of elemental effects, that would have led to a cleaner combat experience where you can actually see what's going on and you can get a wider skill cap going. I do think the gameplay is fun in short bursts. It reminds me a bit of Dynasty Warriors, and they should just add a shit ton of enemies to it. The game only cost about $15 as well, so it isn't a massive investment. They have talked about adding more content in the future, which include levels and characters, but they have no time frame on that yet. I still cannot recommend the game. The game just becomes a brainless mashing of buttons too quickly with no challenge for the majority part of the game, which is a shame. Maybe with some updates and content, this game might be worth playing in the future. We just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you liked the video. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.